Before starting, I would just introduce you in a 3 slide what we are doing in Uber. So as we are now rolling up a lot of things, rolling out a lot of features on Ubers, it might be interesting to know what we are doing, guys. So maybe some connection, some possibility to get some jobs, because one of the key points in being a digital nomad, it's being able to work from the places you are, but it's not always easy to find a job. It's so we are building some programs to help digital nomad being able to learn some skills that can be interesting in projects we are handling, then experiment and eventually get a job. So let me I will share, I will be very, very fast as it's not the most interesting part of the talk. Can you see my screen, guys? Okay, so first, what is Ubers? Basically, we are a global community, all started in China, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Singapore, Taipei, and then we were moving. It's a community of creator experts and contributors, investors, to be able to launch new impactful projects, sustainable one. So it comes to the point that launching a new idea is very complex. I mean, you need to get support from your team, but also from your community to be able to also get the right contact, get the right opportunity, get understanding the market. So basically, we are first a community. We are based in more than 25 countries now. So, and we are now rolling new cities, new countries as well. And it will be very great if we can start having more people from Sri Lanka. We will be very pleased. So we are basically also a springboard for co-creation, to co-create mainly sustainable product, brands and service. One of the reasons we, beside being very much ourselves digital nomad minded, we are traveling around, we are walking around, and we are going to build what we call a collaborative brands that we will need our community of digital nomad to help to build the next big digital nomad brands. So it will be through a design competition. We will have an expert marketplace, so every people participating will be able to contribute and benefit. We have a concept of product launchers that we will introduce in March, and we have been building product development tools to launch and to co-create products faster and on a more sustainable and efficient way. So that is what we do. We have a lot of events coming. So basically, we try to educate our creators, experts, contributors all over the world through events that are meaningful, where you can learn new and top-of-the-art technology that directly from our community, from people that are experiencing and experimenting themselves those technologies. So we have a series of like 7 events coming up in the next few weeks. I hope you will be able also to join. And so that will be all for me today. So we can take a flight together. I will let Jean and take the leadership on that.
Hello from me. My name is Gennady, but you can call me Jean. I'm head of content here in Hubers, and we are trying to build the community of creators that Benjamin just spoke about. And today's focus will be mostly about digital nomads, because they're growing in importance, not just for the economy, but on a cultural level. We're going to be interested to hear more from our guests today, from Ishmael, from Martin, and from Shahzada. And the first thing that we can continue on, the first part of the agenda, is that we have prepared a little time for Ishmael, who is the co-founder of Co-Live Me, which is a co-living space. And we'll be interested to hear more from him. I'll welcome him if he can unmute his microphone, and so he can present more the things he's doing and what exactly co-live me actually represents and what is actually a co-living space as well, because for the past couple of years this kind of grew in importance. So hello Ishmael, how are you?
Hello, thank you for the introduction. Everything is fine. So, okay, so I can talk a bit, like briefly, how it started, the idea of co-living. So, actually, my background is more design, but I was working in a startup company, let's say, like it was the co-working space where I met also Benjamin, and I was designing those co-working spaces. But I always been and as well, I always have been designing hotels. And in my mind, it's like at the end of the day, I always wanted a space, like just for myself, where you can work and then that you can as well, where you can live and then you can work at the same time. No, that's call it like a home. It's like you don't have to move from place to place. So that's how it started. The idea started in China. Actually, I proposed it to the current company, not the current, to the previous company I was working for. But then they were only focused on co-working space. I thought like co-working space by itself wouldn't only work. Yeah, so then like as they didn't want it to do it, so then I kind of started more by myself. Then it's like, what is co-living? Then depending on which person, then they will give you a definition or another. No? So some people will tell you that you have to do 100 meetup events per day, and then you need to force the people to mingle together. I try to make it more organically. So it's more like the space by itself. You just can come, and then the space by itself, you can mingle with other people. You can talk with each other. You can communicate. You can establish relationships. You can feel like they are your homies. We call like co-livers or co-liver family. And that's how, we try to generate through the design, spaces where people mingle, especially like the living room and shared kitchen is where people meet more. Like in other places, like they say, like you have like a nice co-living, but then you have just your private room. Sometimes with a big desk, then if you have a nice desk, people will work in the room, so then they don't go to the co-working. And then they have like a co-working space. But then the common areas, they are like, I think it's like a house, like the kitchen and the common areas is like it's like the heart of the space. I don't know, what else you ask me? What you say also like about the co-live. So co-live came with that idea, and it's like co-live me is like more like people co-live each other. So it's more like that family. The idea is to create, before COVID, the idea was more to expand all across Asia, and then you can go to all these locations. Now we are in Bali and Sri Lanka. Still, we are planning to expand, but not in all Southeast Asia for now. It's more like locally. And the idea is more like paying a rent. So if you're in your home country and then you need to pay a rent, you just pay for a rent and you live in a house. But when you are traveling, you want to go to different places. So then the idea is to put different locations. You pay a monthly rent, but then you can stay at any of those locations with that monthly fee. So you don't have to worry about paying one hotel every time you go to one place. You need to schedule a little bit in advance, but then when you go there, you have a place where you can make your own coffee, you have filtered water, you have a nice bed, you have a place with internet that works, like nice community, it's safe, it's quiet. So that's the idea of co-live. It's more like a family home with also having your own independence, because,
Well, it seems like a really nice infrastructure for digital nomads, the way you're presenting it, because you can go from one place to another and you can have this feeling that there is always a place for you. There is always a home waiting for you at your next destination.
Yeah, like especially, for example, when people traveling in Sri Lanka, the main problems are like the internet doesn't work, or the place is full of mosquitoes, or there's something not working much, or the electricity goes off, or all these kind of things. So what most of the people want, actually, what most of the people want, they just want a internet, like a reliable internet. Like even if the water doesn't work, like they want internet. But you want a nice place where where you are welcome, and you are welcome, you feel comfortable, and then that immediately you have a meeting in 20 minutes, you just can put your computer, you work, you get your things done, then you close your laptop, then you just jump in the pool, or you take a boat, go surfing, or you go to a nice restaurant, or you can go to a beach party, or depending on each of the person. We also try not to create big parties or events here. We just do more small things like movie nights or barbecues or things like that. But the events, like Sri Lanka, especially in this area, is full of events outside. So it's more like, it's like in your house. You don't like to make, you don't want to make parties at your house all the time. You just go to any party or any event outside, then you come home. It's a quiet space, clean, and peaceful place where you can do your daily life.
And because we are also a community of creators, a community of entrepreneurs, and startup is quite important for us, how did you end up actually coming up with the idea, funding it, making it real? You basically, as far as I understand, you managed to make a living for the past 2 years. Correct me if I'm wrong.
A bit more, maybe 2000. It started in 2017.
2017, sorry. So how exactly did you manage to make it from an idea to make it a reality? How was your process of because this seems like quite a it seems like a project that does have some level of complexity in it. That's a lot of locations that you have to figure out.
So it started in Shanghai. When I was in Shanghai, as I said before. So I even got a huge building that the government will give it for free. But then you need like a big set of investors. Then I didn't want to have like a lot of investors behind your back, putting you pressure on economic aspects, because otherwise the magic of the co-living, like that passion, it disappeared. So then it's like, I cannot do something with my financial resources in China. So then I have traveled around places in Sri Lanka. It's one place that I especially like it. So then I decided just to, to save a bit more money and then quit everything and come here. I started here, but then it was slow. So then also there were some partners that they wanted to do something in Bali, and it's like, okay, let's start in Bali. And we started in Bali in 2019, 3 years ago. We started there. But it was more a hybrid between surf camp, skate classes and surf and pool and activity. It's more like sport and co-working space. So it's not the pure co-living. It's more like, pure. It depends how do you define it. It's not like the place where you have a living room, cooking with your people, and then you can serve food or do. It's more like a sports oriented. And then slowly I was in Sri Lanka, and first you need to take the property. It takes, people think that you can take one in 1 month, in 1 week. It took more than a year. Then you need to renovate it. You need to do everything. And it took time to do this property. But at least this is more like how to say? It's like same as when you do a brand. You make a concept store, and then that store is the one that you can replicate on retail, So this one is, let's say, like the first one that is more like the concept is fully assembled in a way that later it can be replicated elsewhere. So for that, also you need to determine a bit like all the standards, how they work, and so on. So that is the complexity. It's more about the systems and the standards, how they work and how is the system of. Still, we are learning from it, because then you try to see samples around the world about co-livings. There is not that many, and different people do it in different ways. Like most of the people in Asia, they do it in big cities. So they take a tower and then they make it like residential house. So that is more like substituting them apartments. This, I would say, is more like a resort for living. So it's more like a place where you go, but it's not something that you stay for 2 years. I mean, people stay, I mean, like the average is like 1 month. Like,
And just one thing that I'll be interested to hear from you before we continue towards the interactive session, where we're going to have a little bit more questions about the subject of being a digital nomad with you, with Martin, and with Dulita. Because what you have mentioned seems to be an issue for a lot of people which are starting their own business, and that is managing, as you have said it, managing the magic from one hand, and also the business aspect of it, as you have put it well, that if you invite too much investors, they'll breathing after you, they'll push you for KPIs. We know how it is. So for people which are always somewhere between the hammer and the anvil, you seem to went into the direction of being as independent as possible so that you can create the atmosphere that you want for your place. But many other businesses in their particular sphere can face similar issues, or similar troubles. What is your advice for people who are starting their own business, who are developing their idea, to stick true to it? What's the best way to follow your path, being more independent, or
well,
something?
it will depend on the business, but I will say at least start well. Then you will have time to not get corrupted, but to solve yourself. So
Right.
at least the first, you need to start with good steps. So at least make something a little bit with more passion or with love or with something that you really want to do, even though that it doesn't generate all the money that you want to generate before. If you think about how much you are going to earn once you start, then nothing will work because you will think only about the money. So sometimes here, it's like something happens. Okay, less earnings, no problem. At least make something working well. People is happy. Then that it will lead to bring other people, and then it will work. So I would say like at least start more. Yeah, start from the heart, and like from something that you really think it will work. Then to replicate this later in 2 3 years. Okay, if we want to grow and become like the biggest co-living in Asia, it's a successful model. You have the accounts that is working well. You have happy people that is coming back. So then it's very easy to replicate it. If you want to start replicating it from the beginning and make a McDonald's, it might not work. Maybe it becomes a little trendy at the beginning. You will spend all the money in marketing, try to generate leads, and then the people is not happy, the clients, so that it won't work. In my vision, it depends on each person. At least I prefer to start with quality in that way.
Thank you. That was a great advice, really. I personally, in some of my ventures, will try to keep forth. Thank you for that. So we, after the short presentation, which was really nice. Thank you, Ishmael, about co-living spaces and co-live me. We'll certainly have some questions for you. I think you can still leave your microphone open. We can continue with the next section where we're going to have a little discussion. And no worries, we have time, which is with you, Ishmael, with Dulita, with Martin, and with Shehzada. And we're going to talk a little bit more about being a digital nomad. And I do invite you in your answers, if you feel that you don't agree with somebody else, feel free to object or to talk. Like we said, even though that's a little bit complicated online, this is a discussion anyway. So we're interested to hear as many as possible opinions from you, because your experience is valuable to us and we want to hear you. So the first thing I'm going to actually go out is actually towards Dulita, because actually before I continue on to that, Ishmael, he managed to present himself. Can I just ask you, Martin, Dulita, and Shehzada, one after another, just to make a little introduction about yourself, present yourself, what do you do, where you are, of course, right now on the planet Earth, because I know that you're traveling, all of you, and then I will proceed more to ask you more about certain things we'll be interested to hear from you. So we can start, for example, with Martin. For example, he's the first here in line on my screen. Hello, Martin.
Hey guys. So yeah, I'm Martin. I was traveling a lot before the pandemic situation started. We lived in like 7 different countries for the last like 8 years, and my background, yeah, I studied economics, and then we just traveled around the world, and mostly in dollar countries. So the idea was, let's go somewhere where you can earn dollars and you can save the money and then you can invest, kind of stuff. So we like really didn't spend a lot, so we were saving the money, and now we are in the stage where I just use those money and like play with them, invest in some projects and stuff. And we are now in Kalev. I think it's the best place in Sri Lanka where digital nomads can be. And yeah, it's pretty good here. I mean, you can surf, there is sun, pretty good food. So yeah.
Right. I didn't 100% agree with Martin. Aisha Wahab just said on the chat. And I actually, even though that Ishmael and co-living, they're actually helping us for this event, I wasn't aware that you're in co-living right now in Sri Lanka. So it was a nice surprise, I think, for at least for me and for all the people. And all right, okay. Ishmael is showing on his screen where you are. It seems pretty cool. It seems like a cool place. So how? Just a quick thing. You said you have managed to save some money for your future plans, which sounds really cool. Do you have any ideas what you're going to invest them in?
Where do I invest money?
Yeah, those.
Like which is?
Yeah. Where do you think?
Yeah, like 99% in crypto.
All right. We'll be interested to hear more about that in the future. So guys, hold your breath. So the next one I'll be here, probably Dulitha. If you can just say a couple of words about yourself, who you are, where you are, what do you do. We'll be interested to hear more from you. And of course, how you connect to the idea of digital nomads.
All right. Okay. So my name is Dolitha, guys. I previously, like, I used to be an IT consultant, so I used to travel quite a bit around and work in like US and Australia, and I always loved travel. And then jumped on the entrepreneurship train in 2017. Couldn't travel for about 3 years, and then I then traveled to Singapore and a couple of places, but it was not really. It wasn't as, how do I say, it wasn't as pre-entrepreneurship days. It wasn't that mindset, I guess. Then past COVID, after COVID, we kind of, anyway, I have a business that's more of in software consulting. So we build remote teams for startups and scale ups in Europe and Singapore. So with that, I managed to kind of get the 100% of the business to be remote. So now management is also done remotely, so I no longer have to be in Colombo. So I used to live in Colombo for a long period of time, and then in last year August, we decided to kind of my girlfriend at that time, and we decided to go to stay to Hirikati, and then after Hirikati, we kind of came to Hangama. So we are kind of traveling first in Sri Lanka. We are staying a couple of months. Now the plan is that we actually got engaged last September. So plan is to now go ahead and live in Europe as well in the next year. So let's see how things will go. That's the plan.
Well, sounds quite amazing, Dulitha. I'll be interested to hear more about your experience of managing teams remotely, because you are in a unique position here of being a business owner and somebody who is responsible for a lot of people. And last but not least, Shehzada, he's a digital nomad by in his soul and in his blood. And I'll be here interested to hear. We also published a short interview on our Harbor's blog a couple of days ago, where he managed to mention a lot of his personal experience of being a digital nomad, which at least for me was very interesting to hear. So, but for those who haven't read it, please go and read it. It's on Hubbard's blog. Go ahead. You can do it after the event. But for now, I'm going to ask you, Shazad, just a couple of words, who you are, what do you do, and what you're involved with.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Janadi, for such an incredible introduction. So my name is Shehzada, and right now I'm in Sri Lanka. And I've been living this life of digital nomad for the last 4 years. And majorly, I travel to Southeast Asia. So the same concept. I try to make money in dollars and spend in countries that where dollar has more value and I could buy more and save money for future investments. Right now, I have an Airbnb business back in my country, India, which I run remotely. I have a team on ground, and all the other things I try to manage it remotely. With that, I run a podcast where I talk about digital nomadism, remote work, techniques, infrastructure, challenges, or the adventures of people who are living this life. So we interview people from all over the world, industry leaders, thought leaders, and we just, we're trying to have a conversation about such a big shift that's happening in the way the world has changed in the way everyone's working I think since the industrialization, it is the biggest change of how people are working. So this idea started in pandemic with me and my friend Mayur, who has his co-living in Goa, India, by the name Nomad Gaon. So we both sat together on a video call one day, and we wanted to start this conversation in South Asia. That if all of our work can be done through home, then home can be anywhere. And as me and Mayur, we've lived this life of digital nomadism, and we wanted to share this idea with other people. So that's how this all started, and it's been 1 month that I'm in Sri Lanka. Before that, I started this travels in October. I was in Russia, Albania, Serbia, and now I'm in Sri Lanka. I was in a wonderful co-working, co-living space called La Isla Bonita in Veligama for 1 month. It's just been 1 week that I moved here to Dicovella. So that's a little 2 cents about me.
All right. So just to mention, you are also the owner of a podcast, which is quite focused on digital nomads, and you're also dealing with digital marketing. So for those that would like to hear more, probably you can head them to your podcast. What was the name of it? Sorry again.
Yeah, podcast is called Remote Explorers, REMOTE space Explorers. You can find it on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast.
Okay. So the first round of questions I'm interested to hear, and just to let you know how we're with time, we have about 20 minutes for questions. I'll try to be as quick as possible for the whole lot of you. And then we're going to have open time for questions from the public. All of those who are listening right now, they most certainly will have their questions at the end of all the things that you have mentioned. So, for example, the thing I'll be interested to hear first from Dulitha, I have about 4 questions for him, is that you are, from one hand, a business owner, all right? And on the other hand, you're also a digital nomad, right? So how do you manage to keep this balance of being responsible for a business while you're traveling? How exactly does it work for you?
Yeah,
Yep.
got it. No, what I was saying was that it's an interesting question. I think what happened was that through the pandemic, anyway, since we are into software consulting, everything went remote anyways. So only people who were at the office per se was the administrative stuff, which was like and then we kind of realized that I personally realized that it was not necessary to be in the office per se to be responsible, because anyway you are responsible whatever whatever you say and done. Like until you kind of exit out of the business, it's your business and you're like you are responsible for it, right? So being in this digital nomad journey allowed me to be more mindful of that responsibility, I guess. So I have kind of structured a lot of things on how things work, even being more accountable on personal like productivity on that end, and kind of identifying um, how like when you take a business remote, you have to kind of rethink the structure of how you manage people and manage systems. So you have to kind of build a lot of things from ground up. So that's I think the key thing that I realized, because if you apply the same way of managing the business as you do in person versus remotely, it's very different. So you need to kind of rethink on how you do that. That I think is the key. And the type of people you need to hire are also completely different. Like you need to hire people who are, how do I say, more independent, and they need less guidance, and they are able to kind of, they love uh, working with minimal supervision. So that's the key thing.
Well, this sounds like a very easy thing to do. I guess you can find everywhere such kind of people, right?
No, I think the harder part is identifying people,
Mhm.
and then
So how do you do it? How do you identify these particular kind of people?
It has a lot to do with nature and nurture of things as well. So I think
Mhm.
specifically when it comes to software, software and like like my kind of field per se, it's easier to find people who are much more independent in how they work.
All right.
Um, but if it's like a different field, I think it will get like, for example, I know that marketing and sales requires a lot more collaboration. That's might be a little bit difficult to do. But for example, like software development and things like that, it is collaborative in some sense, but it is also very independent on that sense. So that's my 2 cents on it.
And what are your words to other employers who may have a business and are kind of scared of this shift towards digital nomadism? All right, this invasion of nomads. Should they be afraid? Should they be scared to the to the absolute last molecule of their body? Is this a threat to their business, or they can embrace it somehow? How should employers face such kind of a I don't know, opportunity, threat?
I think the my view of it is that uh, it is kind of already happening,
Mhm.
and it's happening, and you can't change like collectively you can't really change reality. So might as well, people who are looking at it from a very antagonistic view, they'll have to find out a more optimistic way of looking at it. I don't know if you guys have said that, checked out that even Airbnb branches has put out some tweets about like the recent data of travel. So the travel patterns that was there before has completely changed to a point where the most travel date now is like Monday or Tuesday, which means that people are just traveling to work from somewhere, right?
They're not
So
they're not going for example, probably they're not going for a vacation for the weekend somewhere across
yeah,
another city or all right, yeah. All right.
so what that means is that it's the reality, it's happening. And what it also means for employers is that you will have to really think about the working experience for people who are working for you, because like what that mobility means is that if you are unhappy and it's not the working environment is not great, people can just pack up and leave, right? And it's much more easier when with the new wave of how things are working. And it's also, when you travel, you get a lot of perspective,
Mhm.
right? Like for example, you try, like when you are in a city and you are just living, you tend to live in the motion, where you don't really mindfully live. But when you travel, you see people's problems, the real problems that people have, and then you basically take decisions without, like, how do I say, being in fear. So when that happens, it's very important for employers to be mindful of how they construct working experience. That's what I would say for you, for for all all founders to think through how they build a working experience.
And how, in your particular case, something more focused, how exactly do you go to handling contracts from your side when you're traveling with people from all over the world? How exactly does it work out, like contracts, payment, that kind of nitty-gritty
So
stuff?
I think that's a good question. The ways that's why I said that you need to completely rethink a lot of things how you do. So, for example, even things like contracts, we use a lot of things like PandaDocs to do e-signing of contracts, and then we kind of use TransferWise to do some transfers and things like that. So you have to have those setups in place. And if you are, in our case, like if you're hiring somebody, you'd have to. It depends on what type of contract you're signing. So imagine if it's like a contract you want to sign for with somebody on a more permanent basis, you'd have to go through remote or deal or like some sort of a EOR company that does like an employee on record. So there is a lot of details and legalities you need to be aware of, but at the same time, um, it's a bit again even the things that I said, even the EOR thing doesn't work for nomads. So imagine you are trying to hire a person across Vietnam, somebody traveling, and you want to get an EOR company in Vietnam. The person might not stay in Vietnam, so it's probably not going to work in certain cases. So you have to be open for going through a little bit of custom solutions. So that's the key thing about it.
Okay, and just a little question to Benjamin. Would it be okay if we go a little bit over time? Because we have about 20 minutes, I think, and we have quite a lot of questions also for
If everybody is fine, I think it's okay. I think it's more
Yeah.
than okay. Sure.
Okay, because in that case, we're going to go over 1 hour, at least with 10, 15 minutes, I think, the way I see it, because we have a lot of things to ask them. But if everybody is okay, I think we can proceed. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be good that we go through all the questions you have and maybe to have a kind of breakout room at the very end so we can all talk to each other.
Okay. And yeah, I asked Dulita about the contracts. The other thing about Dulita, and probably this will be something that I'll be interested to hear from Martin later on, is how do you handle different currencies and payments? What are your tools that you use? Do you have particular apps that you find useful to make your transactions, salaries, or it depends on different places depending on where you are at the moment?
I think TransferWise is a really good app to do that. But then there's another company called like First Space where they kind of set up a US entity for you, and you can use like Brex and Mercury as your neobanks to do your transactions. So it again, all this stuff that I'm saying is very dependent on the situation, because sometimes it might make sense to set up a business in the UK depending on the nationality of people, etc. So it's a very, how do I say, tools are there, it just requires creative meddling. that's the answer, I would say.
All right. It seems like a complicated thing. So thank you, Dulita. If you have other things to add later on, feel free to unmute anytime. Ishmael, I just have another question for you because you very well described co-living. But I'll be interested to hear more about what's the difference between co-living and being in a hostel. All right, where exactly do they align, and what's the thing that's missing there?
Well, I mean, like co-living in a hostel, you go for partying. Co-living, you come for work. No? Like, let's say, like the hostel environment is like about sharing and so on. But if anybody try to, I mean, in a hostel, usually you have shared rooms. Here you have your privacy. So I would say like co-living is a bit more, I mean, let's say like hostel is more when you are like 20 years old. Co-living is more when you are like a bit grow older, and then you are responsible to manage your own company or your own startup or your own thing. Yeah, before Benjamin, he asked me like to show a little bit around. Maybe do you want to have an
if you can have a quick tour, I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So,
like for example,
I
like
think
you have,
everyone want to see what is happening there,
yeah.
especially coming from a famous architect.
Yeah. So for example, here you have the co-working space. You can see Martin there.
All
Then
right.
you have Martin, double Martin. Then you have here Felix is working. Then, for example, somebody's reading, sitting in the garden.
All right.
Then you have like a nice pool. All is based on sustainable principles. I mean, like natural ventilation, a lot of greenery. And then you have this area. So in this case, it's, for example, divided in 4 areas. One is the rooftop. That I mean, it looks nice, but it might take time to come. Other is the rooms. Other is the co-working space. And then the last one is a bit more like living room, which is more about relaxing. You can see somebody else working here, And then you have like a little bit area here. This is more like to relax. So this is where everything happens. And you have also like a kind of shared kitchen and pantry where different people have their own food, they can cook, and then they have their own system. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, they have like a nice sharing kitchen and pantry, people eat. Also, you want to eat with somebody, you eat here, you can work, and then you have like many different spaces to work. So actually, I like not when people have meetings in the co-working, maybe they have it just in the garden. I think I will move now to the garden. I prefer like when everything is cold in Europe, and then you have like a, like a tropical ground. So yeah, I think it's better in a way.
All right.
Point of view to this point of view within 1 minute, Even Martin, sometimes he has meetings in the swimming pool. Like he's like, I take some pictures. Yeah.
So how many people right now are living in this co-living where you are?
So we have 8 rooms, and yeah, we are full with them. So we have around.
So it's quite spacious
12.
the way. So
yeah, like the thing is like the hostels, sometimes you maximize occupancy, but here what I try to maximize is comfort. Even for the co-working, for the people that come from outside, the first question I ask always is like, do you have a lot of video calls? Do you disturb other people? Because if one person can disturb the rest of them, like now I'm disturbing everybody, but that's the thing. And you come here to have a nice life. I mean, you don't move from your room in France or in London or in wherever, Czech Republic or Ukraine, to come to stay in a small room in Sri Lanka. You want to have like a spacious room, you want to have nature, you want to have a pool, you want to have your dream life, but not paying as a millionaire, just paying something similar of what you would pay in your home country or in wherever you work.
Thank you very much, Ishmael. That was a great tour that you've given us. And when you have something like that, what are the peculiarities of managing it? When you have to manage such a space and also people who are traveling, which are digital nomads, which are the unique challenges that you face in your position?
The main challenges is living in Sri Lanka, always there is something to fix. So, I mean, you are in a tropical country, this is a developing country, so there is all kind of things. So from not having gas, because there is no gas, electricity cuts every on and forth, so we need to put solar panels and batteries. Then there is no water, water come every 3 days, so you need to put deposits of water. So you have like all these kind of infrastructure problems that everybody else has. So what we try to do is to solve them so the people come here, then they don't worry about that. They just worry about doing their job and enjoying life. So there is all these things about operational within the country, that the country is not working as smooth as other countries work. So that's the main challenges.
So that's
People
another
while-
thing in a co-living space, that you are actually providing the safe net of being certain that as a digital nomad you can perform your work. Because the way you describe it, there are lots of risks: not having electricity, water, etc.
Yeah, like gas, even milk. There was no milk last week in the country, So, so all these kind of things. So it's just to take all these worries out of the people as much as possible, and then just let them, come here, and everything is working. So then,
And when you listen to digital nomads and to your guests, how do they experience the time in the co-living? How do they see their time in this place? These 8 people, for example, in this room, what's their view of this whole thing?
I mean, they like it. Like so far, to be honest, I
Do you
didn't
like it
know.
now? You like it so far?
No. Like everybody like it, and everybody put nice reviews. And when they come,
I
get
said
sure.
to Martin, because he's your guest.
Yeah.
You as a guest, how do you experience living in a co-living from your point of view? How does it look like?
I would say it's monopoly here. There is like nothing you can compare with co-live around here, and we are talking about the area of Sri Lanka where all people and nomads are like around, like Weligama, Ahangama, Mirisa. It's like if you want to find some similar place, you just can't, because there is nothing like this. I always say like Sri Lanka is a couple of years behind Bali. So like on Bali, you can get good flat white, good vegan food, good co-working places. You can play tennis, you can play football. And here, like the infrastructure is not here yet, but it's getting better, I guess. And it will still need a couple of years to like provide all those things for like nomads. But yeah, I mean, Koliv is just a beautiful place. We lived in another like co-work place in Weligama, but it's just, as Ismail said, it's just co-working place where you have table, and then you have just your room, but you don't have any like let's say garden or pool or something where you can just talk with people, like network a bit. So that's what makes this place really unique. And also, like, we are in the middle of jungle, so it's just it's also like the values of what you are looking for, and you feel really peaceful in the jungle, and still you are super close to the beach and to the spots where you can surf. And I mean, yeah, it's I can't imagine like better place where to live and work.
Sounds like it. I mean, when I see your face, you seem quite.
Here, Martin. Here you have your 50 euros. No,
Okay.
no, sorry, Durita. Also, he has been here for a few days, and then he came also to work in co-working. Maybe you can ask his opinion.
Okay. So
if he wants.
So Dulita is also in the co-living space, right?
No, not now. He was here like November.
Okay. So yeah, how was your from your point of view, Dulita? How did you experience it?
It's really good. I like enjoying it with people who have that like-mindedness. So just to bumping into people, and I met Martin over there, and it was we are kind of talking about different projects that we can collaborate on. Then it's good to meet people who and then have that conversation, right? And it's a really great space, and the way the co-living type of it really is very interesting.
So Martin, I saw that Richard has raised the hand. Later on, I'll have this in mind when we come to the part of the Q&A section. Martin, you've mentioned that you've been to other places. This seems like a very peculiar thing when you're a digital nomad, because you're going from a place to place. How do you readjust with that so you can feel comfortable when it comes to having people to talk with, familiar people, organizing your life? Is this a burden of the life of a digital nomad to be able to enjoy really, I mean, having the pleasures, but also, having a place to go eat and stuff like that? Because this seems like one of the risks that people maybe stop because they won't feel comfortable. There certainly are a lot of benefits to being a digital nomad, the way Ishmael has presented the place, but also in other places which are not co-living co-livings, you may have a lot of issues. So it's not all fun and games, basically what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, I mean, like for us, like finding a good place to live and to work, it's I would say if you are happy where you live and where you work, then you are much more productive than if you would be somewhere else, right? So it's like sometimes people are trying to save money and like rent some old house or something and work from there, but then they have like just not proper table, not proper chairs, and it's just like all these negatives like go on, you know. So it's like, okay, I want to live in some place where I feel really comfortable, and as well as when I'm working, I feel okay. And like there is always bonus, like if you use those places like co-working and co-living, you meet people who are like similar mindset as you, because they are also like trying to be independent and be able to travel around the world and stuff. So it's always like, you know, finding your personal values, and then like you are connected or surrounded by same minded people. So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
So, and one question for you that I'm also be interested after you finish to hear the answer for the same question from Shehzada is when you manage to pay the bills, when you're able to overcome all those issues, and when you put the work aside, what else do you do in Sri Lanka, for example, Martin? What are the other things in your checklists?
Oh, I surf.
All right.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
the
well,
time?
I was kind of sad because we brought tennis rackets and tennis stuff, equipment, and I also love playing soccer. But as I said, like if I wanna play tennis, there is court in a Gull, which is like, I don't know, 40 minutes drive, and I don't really want to drive 40 minutes to play tennis and then go 40 minutes back. So that's kind of still sad that I can't really do all sports which I like, and so I basically just surf, and I go to gym, and then I run on the beach, and that's basically it.
The way you're describing it doesn't sound bad at all. But- So, what about you, Shehzada? I think you've been in Sri Lanka, right?
Yeah. So majorly a digital nomad does all the things that a tourist does, but not as a tourist comes for a week, and all that tourist does is just go out, travel, do those activities. A digital nomad distributes that and picks out the free time in the day and places that. So for example, if I'm in Gaul and I have to, one day I go to the old city, the second day I go somewhere else to explore, and then I have my 8 to 9 hours of working. So me personally, I started learning surfing here. So I had like a 1.5 hours of that in my schedule for the first 3 weeks. Today I went for snorkeling. So it depends what wherever you are, you tend to find out what are cool things, nice things to do around, or places to visit, and then you kind of put that in your schedule and experience that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so because you're quite an experienced digital nomad, right? You have seen quite a lot.
I mean, yeah.
And because of that, I'm interested to hear more about from you. Is it easy or is it hard to adapt to the life in Sri Lanka? What are your in a country like Sri Lanka? What are your opinions on that matter, Shehzada?
Well, living in a country like Sri Lanka, it comes with its own cons and pros. For example, there is a lot that you could do with your money. That's a really good thing. You could go to the best restaurants. You could have really have nice cocktails and go out, and still when you look at how much money you spend at the end of the day, it's really less compared to what you would spend in Europe. So that gives you a lot of opportunity to have nice experiences. But of course, the infrastructure, as it is a developing country, there are moments when you feel you need, as Martin pointed out, someday you might want to feel like playing tennis, but the closest tennis court is 40 kilometers away, and you don't want to drive that far. So, but for example, I'm here for like a couple of months, and the reason why I'm here is to be away from the commercial aspects and be in nature, be in forest, be close to the beach, and immerse myself in those experiences, the aquatic life, trekking, and all of that. So that's a good part about being a digital nomad, that you could be experience this life for some part of the year, and then probably you could go to a country like Serbia, Belgrade, which is cheaper than the Western Europe, which has almost the same infrastructure of Western Europe, and it's way cheaper, and you can have that city life, those experiences there. Yeah.
So I have just one more question for you, Shehzada. And after that, we'll continue to the Q&A section. And for this question, if somebody has anything to add, we'll be actually quite open to hear about it. And in the Q&A, the first person that we'll hear is Richard, because he's been raising his hand for quite some time. So Shehzada, do you know what is the current situation with COVID in Sri Lanka? How exactly does it work there? Because this is something that many people will be happy to hear current situation right now.
Yeah, I think. See, I can only tell you from what I've seen and experienced. There, as and when you arrive to Sri Lanka, there are you need to carry your COVID test, and if all the requirements by the government are fulfilled, then you are free to move around. In especially in Colombo, when you go to public places, everyone wears a mask, and there's social distancing. But it's when you come to more to the down south, where less people, more tropical, more rural vibe. It's free. And I personally like that. That there are no much strict regulations, which is something which I kind of support that. So I haven't had any issue with that. I feel more free. I like I'm vaccinated completely, and with my asthma problem, I like being around without mask. But of course, like talking from a responsible digital nomad perspective, we need to be vaccinated. We need to take care if there's anything where you feel your body isn't reacting well to something, so isolate yourself, get yourself tested. But Sri Lanka, for that respect, right now is fine. You're free to come here and travel.
And a question from all.
Sorry, let me add something. Like now in Asia, in most of the places, when you go, either you're vaccinated or not or whatever, you need to do like more strict quarantines. Like I mean, in China, it's crazy, no? Like you need to do like 3-4 weeks. Maybe in Bali, you need to do 5 days. In Thailand, well, you need to do. In Sri Lanka, you just need to give a negative PCR, and then you just can enter and move around freely. So that's why many people is coming like in the last months. It's like we have a lot of people. Yeah.
And because this is going to be a recorded event, and we can post clips of it, I'll be actually interested to hear from each of you, Ishmael, Martin, Dulitha, and Shehzada, because you know Sri Lanka. I'll ask you, each of you, to tell me 3 places that you love, in your top 3 places in Sri Lanka that you love. I think lots of people who watch that, who try to cut it, will be happy to hear your suggestions. So 3 places from each of you, starting with Ishmael, then Martin, then Dulitha, and then Shehzada. 3 places that you love in Sri Lanka and you suggest to go there because of, So Ishmael, you first.
I mean, the first place is Ahangama. Ahangama is where Khalif is.
Right.
I mean, it's not just because we are here. I mean, before coming here, I travel all around the island, and then it's conveniently located. You have jungle, you have sea, you can surf, you can swim. So Ahangama, I would say, is the first. Then also I like the mountains, like especially like in the cold area, which is Nuara area, where there are like a lot of tea plantations. It's not that touristic, but they have like even places that they call like Little England. You take a picture and then you think you are in England. And it looks much more healthy and cold. And the third place, wow, it's not easy to say. I mean, like the beach side, mountain side. I would say like go in the, I mean, in the north, even it's not that developed, there is not much internet. If it's for traveling, not for digital nomad, like in the north area, like either Jaffna or even like Trincomalee or that, because you will see a different culture from the same country. You know, there's two different cultures here, so it's good to see that, to see more contrasted.
Great. So,
yep.
Thank you, Martin.
I would say Yula National Park. That's where we were to see safari here. It was amazing experience. Like for me, the best ever experience was like New Zealand, absolutely. But like safari in Sri Lanka was really, really good, and it's like top 3 on my list. So definitely some safari and like see the wild nature. It's amazing experience. And then for tourists, I would say Mirissa can be nice. It's close from here, and it's pretty nice place where there are many restaurants and good coffees, and yeah. So Mirissa, and what else? Whenever in the ocean, when you are just sitting in the surf and there is sunset, and you are just feel peaceful, and that's like okay, that's what I needed after the tough day, and yeah, so in the ocean.
Sounds great, Martin. Thank you very much. Dulita?
Yeah, I would say there's a small town down of the coast called Hirikati. I would say Hirikati is like one of my most favorite places. And then Galle Fort. That's the fort like built by the Dutch in Galle. Then I would say Riverston. Riverston is it's in the hill mountain area, and it's really cold, and it's really nice to go there once in a while and just experience it. That would be my
Great. And Shikzada?
Yeah, so since I've arrived in Sri Lanka this time, I haven't really traveled a lot. I've lived in like Veligama most of it, but last time I was here, I got an opportunity to like move around a little. So I would say number one is Ella. It's like the mountain area, really nice, green, beautiful. Number two, Mirissa or Veligama. So you stay either of those places because it has really nice beach, good surfing scene for beginners, and also good restaurants and cafes. And then right now where I am, which is close to, as Ita said, Irikitia, which is more peaceful, like less people and quieter. I really like it here. So these would be my top 3.
Thank you, guys. I really enjoyed listening to that, and believe me, I'm taking notes as you talk. So the next person, I'm actually going to invite Richard to unmute his phone because he had a microphone, sorry, because Richard had some questions. Just you can make a short introduction about yourself, Richard, and then the floor is yours. Go on.
Thank you. Actually, the more time that you contemplate about your question, the more you realize the question doesn't mean much. But I'm gonna still share it. I work and live in China. Shanghai, and the last couple of months in Hong Kong, and for the last couple of years between Japan, China, and Hong Kong. I do a couple of things. I teach at the university, so quite a bit of online teaching. We work on city projects with different cities in China and recently in Hong Kong. And it's always around the area of creative innovation, education. And so I think speaking with Ismail, I think that there may be a couple of architects or designers in the group. I'm also kind of curious, for a collective of people in a city, if we don't interact too much, I'm sure you guys are interacting plenty with Sri Lanka, but I kind of look at the old Club Med model, where you go to a place, you go to a beautiful place in a country on an island, and you have zero connection with the people on the island. You know, that's the extreme, right? And I hear, Ismail, that you're doing lecturing at the Moratuba University in Sri Lanka. And I'm just wondering, because this is something that we've done a lot as a community. I've been part of the Burning Man Burners. We built a couple of different communities around Pan Asia, around TEDx and TED and TEDx. And we always think that if we as a collective, when we go somewhere, can we contribute? Can we really interact with the city? Almost a little bit like a dream team. If there's 6, 8, 15 of you in a house, each one with different skill set, not necessarily serve the whole city in a big way, but as a possibility. I mean, is that something that is also in the agenda of co-living? I want to hear a little bit from a little bit everyone, because I think there's some people that can share your expertise with the students. My one day in Moratuba and my 2 years connecting with them, I just realized there's so much missing the understanding of the rest of the world. What is creative industries? What is creative zones? What are different ways of building, of making a city more exciting, more interesting, more livable? Okay, I'll stop here.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. I think you make a very good point, because I totally agree with you on what you said. I am not from Sri Lanka, obviously. I'm from Spain. I came here, so I'm doing business. Also, I need to give something back to the community. So I 100% agree with you. So we created an initiative from beginning. I mean, first of all, we try to always empower the neighbors. So at least when we do something, for example, our neighbor, as a part of the co-living, we built a little unit for him. So there is some guests that they stay there. And then we offer the co-working for this. So we show him also how he can get benefit from the digital nomads and how he can get the money. Even when he get the money, it's like, don't spend it. So then once you can invest in the next additional part. So that we do it with the local neighbors, with the local aunties, also even like with the coconuts, we share it with them and so on. More than that, even with my couple that she's from Sri Lanka, we created an initiative called the Hopper. So what we do, because my background is design and also she's architect, so then we empower the local aunties from the area, and we open like a shop, like a gallery shop, which is a container. We because they are not in the same conditions as foreigners to sell their products. They know how to make arts and crafts, but they don't know how to use Instagram to sell it, how to make nice promotion and so on. So what we do is we take their products, we help them with the design to improve it, and we place it into our gallery and we sell it for them. We try to do it with the fair trade, which is not taking more than 20% commission. Sometimes we take a little more because otherwise we will not survive. but basically we don't make money out of that. And through that, what we do is we empower them to be more so they can live by themselves, because sometimes the old aunties, maybe the husband passed away or they have a job that they cannot hold the whole family and so on. So far, for now, we have 35 aunties. And then our goal for the end of this year is 50, so that they can work with that. Not even that, when you go to the gallery, you have a QR code for every product, you scan it, and then you see who made it, and then you see the story of that. I mean, most of the cases, they are women. And that's the social part from Co-Live. I mean, we get benefit from people that come, but also we give that part back. And yeah, that's, I mean, how we try to do our corporate social responsibility. I can share the details of the website, and then you can see all these arts and crafts people. We try to do events and so on with them. So yeah, very good question. And thank you for mentioning that.
Great, because I mean, the way I see this is for few things with all of you startup and entrepreneurs, is that you will have a greater experience in the countries that you actually travel throughout. You have a better relationship with them. You get to know it better, and potentially you also, besides making an impact, you also be able to do some work. And the idea of 8 different people or even 3 different people together, this constellation of different expertise will actually create a whole new dynamic for the places that you're in, and you're learning how to work with each other. Anyway, thank you very much.
Just to point out, Shahzad.
Hi.
Go ahead, yes.
Richard, I think that's an incredible question that you asked, and I would like to share my perspective on this. And I come from, I'm born in a rural place, right? So I've seen both the parts of the coin. And one of the reasons why I started traveling very young was to see the differences in the developed world and in the developing world and an underdeveloped world. So specifically when we talk about India, India has a major difference between the rich and the poor, right? So when we started this podcast, the Remote Explorers podcast, me and my partner, this was one of our main agendas to solve this problem in India. So we came up with a project which we call Program Panchayat. I'm going to put the link of the website here. So what we have thought about this is, as the world is moving towards working remotely, and so many people from the developed world, Western Europe, US, from all over the world would come to Asia, India, Sri Lanka, Bali. So what we are trying to build here is volunteer work for these people in rural villages, where there'll be co-ed courses provided by these volunteers about technology, how to use fintech, small things, how to make a small game. Because the good part is, we live in 2022, and a lot of people have easy access to internet. They have easy access to Android phones, and there is so much that one could do with an Android phone and internet. But most of the people are still stuck with watching TikTok because they don't know what's the next step beyond that. How could you produce wealth and intellect and knowledge through an Android phone and internet? So this is the difference that we're working to solve on. I'm going to put the link of this on the website, and would be happy to talk more about it with you, Richard, on this.
Super cool. Great. Really, really great.
Are there any other questions from the audience? If there are, you can just unmute your microphone and just speak openly. And I want to thank you, Richard. It was very nice, your entry, and we'll be happy to keep in touch in the future, because you certainly seem like a person who has a lot to tell, and I can tell.
Maybe I'll share one thing for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
There's a very cool program started a number of years ago by something called the Unreasonable Institute. It's I will type the name, and they created something called Unreasonable at Sea, and basically 550, 600 students have 105 days, 22 countries, 22 ports. They will stop, and they get over 20, 30 mentors throughout their 100 days across the world, around the world. And I hosted them in Hong Kong and in Shanghai a number of years ago. And the idea of all of us carry a certain kind of luggage as we move in life. Everywhere we go, we collect something. We collect resources of knowledge, and human resources, and friends, and experience. And as we go forward, we actually can practice in each place that we go to. We can actually practice better as we move on. The third place, the fourth place, the fifth place, and I think this is what I try to do within my community, within our school, and there's my last story. There's a guy that's actually quite incredible. Nothing to do with co-living. I mean, I've tried quite a lot of co-living across the world, especially in Japan, because it became a huge phenomenon in Japan for people really, because the trust system is there in Japan. I just want to share this story about this one guy who likes to travel a lot in China. 18 years ago, he started a website, a communication system, teaching people when they go from point A to point B. This goes a lot with Shazada, when you're talking about urban and rural relationship, city and countryside. Very often we don't anymore think that it's only one way given. City is not only given to countryside, because when you actually get a lot by spending time in countryside. So this guy is creating a digital map of China. When you go from point A to point B, you stop somewhere in the middle. You may travel another 5-10 hours, and you reach a village, and you can spend 2-3 days there living for free. The local people will host you. And you basically, the program is called 1 kilo, 1 kg. And the website last time was called 1kg.org. And in Chinese, it's actually say, carry 1 extra kilo with you. Basically, backpack 1 extra kilo of books, toys, and clothing. So when you go to these places, you interact, and you teach a class, and you spend some time with the local people. Anyway, this is about all I will share. I'll be quiet, listen to you guys.
Thank you very much, Richard. I think that we're actually on the end of our event. We went quite a bit over the planned time, and we tried to give some of the most important questions that we have. If some of you want to add something, now is the time to raise your hand. I'm really grateful for all of you and for your time here. I think it was quite beneficial for all of us. And from the behalf of Habers, I wish you a good day, and we're looking forward for our next event, which is going to be quite soon. I see that Kushik is here. He can probably tell us when is going to be our next event. Do we have some details on this?
Maybe Violetta as well, if Violetta is around. But most probably, the idea is to move around from continent to continent. So we are going to move out from Asia and go maybe to your country, Jean. We were thinking to go to Bansko, which is a very most thought destination these days in Central Eastern Europe. And that might be the next one within a couple of weeks. And then we will move to Porto Viejo in Costa Rica. So we want to give opportunity and to the different ecosystem, different digital nomads to share their experience, and maybe bring more people to have this kind of very exciting life, moving, bringing also to the community, not only taking, and moving from one destination to another. Maybe with 1 more kilo of something, Richard. That is a great idea.
Also, I just to point out that I saw that throughout the event we have almost identical number of participants. I see that most of the people have stayed online. We are going to try to reach out to a couple of you, 2 or 3, to get some feedback and to hear from you. What did you like in the event? What would you have preferred to hear more? We were very keen in improving these events, so please help us in making them much better, and so we can also help you more. So that's for me, and I think, Benjamin, we can say goodbye for today.
Thank you so much, Ismail.
Thank you,
you
guys.
for everyone,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye
Thank
bye.
Ismail. Thanks, Jazada.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Talk to you soon, guys.